When Alan Watts says, "Stop trying to fix yourself, you were never broken," it can sound like a nice inspirational quote at first, but the more you think about it, the more it challenges the way most of us have been living. From a psychological perspective, this isn't about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring our struggles. It's about questioning the assumption that the very core of who we are is defective. Many people spend years thinking their value is on hold until they fix something about themselves. Their confidence, their habits, their body, their career, their relationships. That mindset shapes everything we do, often without us even realizing it. The problem is that when you believe you're broken, you see your entire life through that lens. Psychologists call this a self-schema, basically a mental template you use to interpret your experiences. If your schema is, "I'm not enough," then even positive moments will be twisted to fit that belief. You might get praise at work and immediately think, if they knew the real me, they wouldn't say that. You might have a good day and tell yourself, "It's just luck, it won't last." This isn't because you're ungrateful. It's because your brain is trained to filter reality in a way that matches your inner story. This filtering happens partly because our brains like consistency. In cognitive psychology, there's a term called confirmation bias. It means we pay more attention to information that confirms what we already believe, and we dismiss or forget information that doesn't fit. If you've decided deep down that you're flawed, your brain will constantly collect evidence to prove that belief. You miss a deadline? See, I'm unreliable. You feel anxious in a social situation? See, I'm socially awkward. Over time, these moments pile up in your memory like files in a cabinet, each one reinforcing the belief that something is wrong with you. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to grow or improve. Growth is one of the healthiest human drives we have. The trouble starts when growth becomes an endless repair project instead of a process of learning. Think of it like exercise. If you work out because you enjoy feeling stronger and more energized, it's motivating. If you work out because you hate your body and you're trying to fix it, the process becomes a punishment. The same principle applies to mental and emotional self-improvement. When your motivation is rooted in shame, progress feels heavier, slower, and often less satisfying. Shame-driven self-improvement also tends to backfire. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called learned helplessness. It happens when someone repeatedly feels like they can't meet expectations, so they eventually stop trying. If you believe you're fundamentally flawed, you'll interpret every setback as proof you can't change. You might start something new, therapy, a habit, a skill, but the first time you struggle, you think, "This is just who I am. I can't get better." That thought shuts down motivation and makes real progress almost impossible. One of the biggest shifts that can help is moving from a fixing mindset to an understanding mindset. This sounds simple, but it's powerful. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" try asking, "What's happening with me?" The first question assumes you're defective. The second opens up curiosity. Let's say you've been procrastinating on a project. The fix mindset says, "I'm lazy and undisciplined. I need to fix my willpower." The understanding mindset says, "I'm avoiding this task. Am I feeling overwhelmed? Is it unclear? Am I afraid of failing?" That shift in language changes the emotional tone from judgment to investigation, and that matters because judgment shuts us down while curiosity keeps us engaged. From a neuroscience perspective, self-criticism puts the brain into a threat state. When you think, "I'm broken," your brain reacts as if you're under attack, even though the attack is coming from yourself. This triggers the stress response, increased cortisol, narrowed focus, and readiness for fight or flight. That state is useful if you're running from danger, but terrible for reflection and problem solving. Self-compassion, on the other hand, activates the brain's caregiving system. This releases hormones like oxytocin and dopamine, which help you feel safer, more open, and better able to think clearly. In other words, your brain literally works better when you treat yourself like an ally instead of an enemy. This doesn't mean you ignore your flaws or pretend you have nothing to work on. Acceptance isn't the same as complacency. Acceptance is acknowledging reality as it is, without layering on extra judgment about what it says about your worth. If you're struggling with anxiety, you can accept, "I get anxious in certain situations," without adding, "so I'm weak and broken." That acceptance actually makes it easier to address the anxiety, because you're not wasting energy fighting the fact that it exists in the first place. Another important point is that many things we think of as flaws are just traits that have been framed negatively. Personality psychology teaches that traits exist on a spectrum. High sensitivity can feel like a burden in a noisy, demanding world, but in another context, it's empathy and emotional intelligence. Stubbornness can be a challenge in group settings, but in another situation, it's perseverance and resilience. Seeing traits in context doesn't mean you never adjust them. It means you stop labeling them as proof you're damaged. A big reason people struggle with feeling broken is comparison. Social comparison theory explains that we naturally measure ourselves against others to evaluate our own standing. But in the age of social media, we're comparing our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. We see curated success, filtered happiness, and polished confidence, then measure our messy reality against it. This makes us believe we're further behind than we are, which feeds the broken narrative. The truth is, the people we compare ourselves to are still figuring things out too. They just aren't live streaming the doubts, failures, and unglamorous parts. The paradox is that when you stop trying to fix yourself, you often end up changing more naturally. Think about a time you were learning something new, maybe riding a bike, cooking, or speaking a new language. If you punished yourself for every mistake, you probably felt tense and discouraged. If you laughed at mistakes and kept going, you improved faster. The same applies to personal growth. When you approach yourself with patience instead of urgency, you give your brain and body space to adapt. This is why some therapeutic approaches focus less on changing thoughts and more on accepting them. Acceptance and commitment. Therapy. ACT, for example, helps people notice their thoughts and feelings without getting hooked by them. You might still hear that inner voice say, "You're not enough," but instead of believing it's a statement of fact, you see it as just a thought passing through. Over time, you stop organizing your life around avoiding that feeling and start organizing it around what you actually value. Mindfulness-based therapies take a similar approach. They teach that suffering often comes less from the events themselves and more from the meaning we attach to them. If your meaning-making lens is, "I'm broken," every challenge feels heavier. If your lens is, "I'm human and learning," the same challenge becomes more manageable. The situation doesn't change instantly. Your relationship to it does. This doesn't mean we downplay real psychological struggles. If you're dealing with trauma, depression, or anxiety disorders, getting support and treatment is still crucial. But even in those cases, you're not fixing a broken person. You're helping a person heal, adapt, and reclaim their life. That's an important difference because it removes the extra layer of shame that can slow recovery. You're not a defective product in need of repair. You're a living, changing human being responding to difficult conditions. At the core of Watts's idea is the reminder that your value is not conditional on becoming a perfect version of yourself. There is no final, flawless version waiting at the end of the self-improvement tunnel. Growth is not about replacing yourself with someone better. It's about uncovering more of who you already are and learning how to live in alignment with that. When you stop trying to fix yourself, you give yourself permission to grow from a place of curiosity and acceptance instead of fear and shame. That's where the most sustainable change happens. And that's when life starts feeling less like a repair job and more like a journey worth taking.